Is that going to get through? With us now, Texas Republican Congressman Mike McCaul, chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for joining us. I'll ask you about that aid
Sandra.
package and the president's address in just a moment. But as Gaza is awaiting humanitarian aid, Israel's telling troops to be ready for this ground invasion. How imminent do you believe this is?
I think any day now. The first phase of the operation was to take out the command and control structure of Hamas, take out their leadership, take out these tunnels, and they've done a very good job at that. The second phase, Sandra, is a more dangerous phase. That's a house-to-house operation that we did in Iraq, for instance. Our special operators are over there training the IDF as to how to go in house to house. I'm afraid, though, a lot of these houses will be booby-trapped with bombs. So again, it's a very dangerous mission what they're preparing to do. But I can tell you, when I talk to the Israelis, they are out for revenge. This is their 9/11, and they have never been invaded on this scale before.
All right, what do you think we're going to hear from the president tonight?
I think he's going to talk about the world stage. It's a foreign policy speech. I always argue, since the surrender to the Taliban in Afghanistan, we emboldened our enemies. That's why we saw Putin invading Ukraine. That's why we see Chairman Xi threatening Taiwan. That's precisely why you see Hamas now lighting up with the assistance of Iran and their Shia proxies in the region. So in some respects, it's almost of his own making. But I think he'll make the case why Israel needs assistance. I've talked to the Israeli ambassador about what they need. And the White House has not given us the final numbers on this. Of course, Ukraine assistance, border security, be very important to my members of the conference, and also Taiwan and the Pacific. Things we can do to harden and provide deterrence against the aggressive nature of Chairman Xi and the CCP.
Well, Peter Doocy will be joining us coming up. We know that the White House right now is telling the country and the world to expect this massive aid package to be addressed tonight by the president. Would you be supportive of that?
I haven't seen all the details. We've had discussions about this, but we remind them that the House has the power of the purse, that we appropriate the money. So we're certainly going to take a look at what they have. We're going to provide the input, but we do have the Appropriations Committee here in the House. Now, having said that, Sandra, we don't have a speaker in the House, and that's why I keep calling on my colleagues we need to stay here until we fill this vacancy. Every day we go without a speaker, it sends a terrible message to the world and our adversaries that we're dysfunctional, that we are not capable of governing in a democracy. And that's the case that all of our adversaries make. So we've got to get that speakership
role filled. How much closer are we at this hour to that? I mean, Jim Jordan just spoke a few moments ago. He intends to move on for a third go-around here. Is he going to gain support, lose support, stay the same? What happens if he does this?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I can tell you on the second round, he lost support. I do hear that he may lose more support on the third round. But I think the consensus of my conference was we don't have time to wait to have a real speaker in the chair. We can't have a temporary speaker. That sends a message of weakness. So I think, we're going to stay here as long as it takes to get this thing done.
All right. So the State Department today urging caution, warning American citizens around the globe that there is an increased security threat happening, not just here at home, but everywhere. What do you want people to know about that? And what are the threats, do you believe, right now on U.S. soil?
Well, this type of travel advisory is unprecedented because Hamas keeps talking about a global jihad. What we worry about the most is Hezbollah lighting up with its 100,000 rockets. And then all of a sudden, Jerusalem becomes their Mecca for jihad, from all these various countries around the world. I think here in the United States, I'm particularly concerned about synagogues. When I chaired Homeland Security, I provided authorization and funding to better protect our Jewish synagogues. But if anybody traveling to the Middle East needs to be warned and go in eyes wide open, it's becoming more and more dangerous by the day.
Chairman, we have a mother of a child held hostage by Hamas. This is a huge and growing part of this story. These hostages, their families appealing for help, as it is going to be a major challenge to rescue them. Listen here.
This is torture. There are innocent civilians, innocent children in hard conditions. They're not a pawn in a game or a war. They need to be released, and released now, yesterday. This is crazy. This is a nightmare.
Okay, so that's obviously a bit different than we thought, but equally heartbreaking. An aunt of 2 children taken by Hamas. There are desperate pleas by these families that are involved. Do you see the pictures of those? While the families are begging to get these hostages out. Israel now says there are more than 200 hostages being held right now, Congressman. Is time running out? What happens with this?
It's heartbreaking to take children hostages. I've heard many accounts of parents being killed, and then they take the children as hostages to get their own political prisoners back, or to use them as human shields against the IDF when they go in on the ground. This is the sickest thing about Hamas and the terror organization that acts like ISIS. And I was in a village in the kibbutz where they overran the village, the daycare center. They beheaded the children and they burned some of them alive. They need to be eliminated from the face of the earth.
Mr. Chairman, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sandra.